Be honest. You've seen someone for the first time and thought, okay, they're not exactly easy on the eyes. Maybe it was a classmate, a new coworker, someone you kept running into. But then, weeks go by. Months, maybe. And at some point, without even realizing it, you start thinking, actually, they're kind of attractive? We usually brush it off. Oh, I just got used to them. I guess I warmed up to them. But what if something way more interesting is actually happening inside your brain? Today, we're going deep into the science behind this strange, quiet shift, and what we find is honestly going to surprise you. Let's start with the most famous concept in this space. It's called the mere exposure effect. Back in the 1960s, psychologist Robert Zajonc ran a now legendary experiment. He showed people a series of Chinese characters, completely random, completely meaningless to them. Some characters showed up once, others showed up over and over again. And here's the wild part. When he asked people which characters they liked better, they consistently chose the ones they'd seen more often. They had no idea why. The characters meant nothing to them, but familiarity alone made something feel good. Now stay with me, because this is where it gets personal. If your brain can develop a preference for a random symbol, just by seeing it repeatedly, what do you think happens when it sees a human face? The answer is the same thing, but more powerful. Research shows that the mere exposure effect absolutely applies to how we evaluate physical attractiveness. But, and this is important, it doesn't work on every face the same way. If someone triggers a strong, visceral negative reaction right from the start, repeated exposure can actually make things worse, not better. Think about it like this. If you watch a horror movie and a certain actor genuinely creeps you out, seeing that face again and again isn't going to warm you up to them. It's going to keep setting off alarm bells. But here's the thing. For most people, unattractive doesn't mean deeply unsettling. It just means below average, plain, unremarkable. And for faces like that, repeated exposure is incredibly powerful. There's a kind of threshold. Once a face crosses it, once you've seen it enough times, your brain doesn't just get used to it. It actually starts to like it. To understand why, we need to talk about what your brain is doing behind the scenes. Here's something most people don't realize: your brain is obsessed with prediction. When you see a face for the first time, your brain has no blueprint for it. No data, no expectations, and the brain doesn't love that. It registers the unfamiliar as a potential threat, or at least a mild discomfort. But the second time, it starts building a model. Third time, the model gets sharper. By the 10th, 20th, 50th time, your brain can predict exactly what that face looks like before it even fully processes it. And every single time that prediction is correct, your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine. That's right, a reward chemical for seeing a face you know. So here's what's actually happening. When you start finding someone more attractive over time, your brain isn't reacting to their face anymore. It's reacting to the satisfaction of recognizing something familiar. And your conscious mind? It just calls that feeling attractive. But it doesn't stop there. Because the brain has another trick up its sleeve. This one is called social emotion transfer. And it might be the most underrated force in how we perceive beauty. Think about the real-world situations where you see the same person over and over. A coworker, a classmate, your neighbor, someone from your weekly yoga class or your regular coffee spot. In almost every case, you're not just seeing them. You're interacting with them. You're building a relationship, even a small one. And as that relationship develops, you start to form an emotional impression of who they are. They made you laugh. They helped you out when you needed it. They just get you. And here's where it gets fascinating. Your brain is lazy. It doesn't neatly separate, I like this person's personality, from I find this person attractive. Those two things blur together. The warmth you feel about who they are gets quietly transferred onto how they look. And suddenly, the same face that you once barely noticed, it starts looking pretty good. And while all of this is happening emotionally, your visual cortex is making its own adjustments. Neuroscientists have identified a region of the brain called the fusiform face area. And it does something remarkable. When you're exposed to a particular face, over a long period of time, this region actually recalibrates. It takes that face and starts treating it as the new normal. The new baseline. Here's a quick experiment to make this click. You know how if you stare at a really bright color for a long time, and then look at a white wall, you see the afterimage in the opposite color? Your visual system adapts. It recalibrates around whatever it keeps seeing. The same thing happens with faces. If you spend a lot of time around someone, your brain quietly starts treating their features as the standard. Their proportions, their bone structure, their expressions become your new reference point for normal. And once something becomes your normal, it stops feeling unusual. It just starts feeling right. This is actually the exact opposite of something you've probably already experienced. If you spend a lot of time scrolling through feeds full of models and influencers and celebrities, regular people start looking plainer by comparison. Your brain recalibrated upward, but spend enough time with one real person? Your brain recalibrates around them. Now here's the part that absolutely blew my mind when I came across it. All of these effects, the mere exposure effect, the dopamine reward loop, the social emotion transfer, they get dramatically amplified in what researchers call close relationship dynamics. We're talking about the people you genuinely love, your best friend, a long-term partner, a sibling you're close to. In these relationships, familiarity and deep emotional connection combine into something that completely overrides your original aesthetic judgment. And there's actual data to back this up. Studies on romantic couples found that how attractive someone rated their partner had almost nothing to do with objective physical appearance. What actually predicted it? Relationship quality, emotional satisfaction, how seen and valued they felt. People in deeply fulfilling relationships consistently rated their partners as more attractive than outside observers did. And not because they were deluded. Because their brain had literally rewired its aesthetic evaluation system around someone they loved. And when you think about it, this explains something you've probably already noticed in everyday life. Think about fan communities, people who are obsessed with a specific musician, a band, an actor. It almost never starts with the face. It starts with the talent, the vibe, the feeling the person gives you. But spend enough time watching them, listening to them, following them. The face starts to grow on you. Then it starts to look great. Then, before you know it, you're convinced. This is objectively the most attractive person on the planet. And look, people joke about this all the time. They got more attractive once I started listening to their music. I didn't think they were my type. But then I watched all their interviews and now. Here's the thing, they're not imagining it. Their brain genuinely changed how it processes that face. The neural pathways connecting that person's appearance to positive emotion have been reinforced so many times that the two are basically fused together. So let's bring it all home. Can an unattractive face actually become attractive just by looking at it more? The science says yes, but not because the face changed. Because you changed, your brain adapted, your reward system got rewired, your emotional associations shifted, the face that once felt unfamiliar and forgettable became familiar. Then comfortable, then, quietly, beautiful. And maybe this tells us something deeper than just familiarity breeds attraction. Maybe it tells us that beauty, real beauty, isn't a fixed measurement. It's not a number. It's not a symmetry score. It's not something you either have or you don't. Beauty is something that grows. It's built over time, through attention, through connection, through simply choosing to keep looking. The face you've spent years looking at, laughing with, trusting, the face that's become part of the fabric of your daily life? That's not just familiar. That's irreplaceable. And maybe that's what beautiful actually means.